Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and a doctoral student of psychology. Today, we're going to talk about how avoidants value indifference more than love. It's not actually indifference. I do want to clarify that. It will feel like indifference to you, but it's actually toned down in a more structured version of your love, which is similar to how they show love. And so you might perceive it as indifference because you guys often, when I have calls with you guys, you might feel like your partner is very detached, very indifferent, doesn't really care about you, when in actuality they're just showing love like this, which is what we're going to talk about today. And I have discussed this a lot with some of you guys on calls. So you guys, some of you have already heard this, okay? But if anyone wants a consultation call with me regarding a very specific case, anything. I've heard a lot and I do not judge, I don't care, but I want to help you. Usually we're able to find solutions relatively quickly in that session, or if you need more, that's fine as well. But I also have an email section where if you want to email me about something specifically, you can write as much details as you like. The only person that sees it is me. So I promise you it's all safe with me. I'm never going to tell anybody. And so please go ahead and use those services if you need it. It can really help you guys with these situations so that you get the love that you want, okay? But this will help as well. This video will help as well. Of course, that's why I make free videos, so that I can help as much people as possible. The first one is after a disagreement, okay? This is specific, but it's something that does come up a lot. So I wanted to share the specific point because I feel like if I'm seeing this a lot in a call or calls, it probably helps a lot of people as well. And so after a disagreement, what I see you guys do, not all of you guys, okay? You still want to talk things out, or you don't wait as long to have this discussion. What I would recommend is to take time before discussing the issue again. If you need a moment, I recommend you mention that you need a couple hours away because you want to process how you feel. You want to not let the disappointment control you or the narrative of the relationship. That's why I say take space if necessary. Don't take 5 days of space, because the tricky part is with fearful avoidance, you guys, you take more space than necessary because you have that avoidance side. But it's interesting with a fearful avoidance specifically. A lot of you guys are fearful avoidant, you think you're more anxious than you are. And so what you do is you say, I don't want to be needy, so I'm going to give a little bit more time. In actuality, that's you being negative about yourself, because fearful avoidants are negative about other people, but they're also negative about themselves. Don't do that. If you're a fearful avoidant and you feel like you can kind of see how you could make it more space than it needs to be, this point probably isn't for you. Be mindful if you're a fearful avoidant. Maybe a little bit of space, but I would say, especially if you're a fearful avoidant, maybe just 1 hour. If you're anxious or secure, a couple hours is fine. Fearful avoidant, I would just say 1 hour, because I know you guys can put it too far. Just limit it to 1 hour of a space, okay? The next one is be present in the moment instead of future worries. If you're anxious, this is something that you guys will struggle with. Some secure as well, if your partner is very strongly avoidant. But normally what people who are anxious, they do, and some fearful avoidance, is in the moment when you're with your partner, you're thinking about all the things they're not doing. You're thinking about the things that other people have in the relationship. You're thinking about the things that's missing in the relationship. And I get that, because the truth is these relationships, there are a lot of things that are missing from a typical relationship, especially if you've had other relationships. This one is different, and it is frustrating and it is challenging, and I completely respect that, okay? But in actuality, by you doing that, you are pushing away and you're putting a lot of focus on the love aspect of the relationship instead of what's actually happening, which is why it's going to feel like indifference. You're just thinking about the moment, not all the time, but every now and again, thinking about what's happening in the present day instead of worrying about the future can really make a difference. For example, if you guys are going to the park and maybe you did have a pretty big fight a couple days ago, or you feel like they weren't very attentive to you, at this point, just this point in particular, put that aside. Enjoy the park, because what happens with avoidance is that enjoyment at the park or whatever situation it is helps them to warm up to you and feel more safe to talk about other things. And then they will be more comfortable talking about future worries and finding solutions, okay? But they just need more time than you do. It takes a lot longer for them to process, okay? The next one is particular to the beginning stage, and this is where the indifference portion really comes up, okay? In the beginning stages of the relationship, if you start realizing this person is avoidant, refrain from too much information regarding affection and connection, and save it for in person. So I mean particularly off of text or phone. If you are very, very affectionate over text, sending hearts, I love you, etc., that's good, but limit it. And you want to save it for in person. Every now and again is fine, but there's a balance. I'm going to explain why, okay? There's a couple things that happens with avoidance. Some avoidants avoid seeing you in person. I've made a couple videos on that. I've made plenty of videos on that, actually, probably more than a couple. I will make more because that is like one of the most common issues with avoidant attachment. Most avoidants avoid seeing you in person. Now it depends. Some of them avoid it altogether. Some of them avoid it maybe it's less frequent, okay? Whereas secure couples, they might see each other 2 or 3 times a week, honestly. That's normal. And then anxious maybe a little bit more often. Avoidance maybe once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, maybe once a month, maybe once every couple months. Sometimes not ever, or they're avoiding it for a long time. This is part of the trap I see a lot of you guys fall into. Because you guys don't see each other in person as often, you almost overextend during text and call. A little bit is okay because I understand you guys haven't seen each other. It's okay to need that a little bit. That's normal. I think that's okay. However, if it's to the point where it almost takes out the reason for seeing each other in person, then it can make a little bit of a challenge. And so sometimes what I recommend is if you are being a little bit romantic over phone or text, you can mention, I like, where this is going. I like talking about this. This makes me feel comfortable. Maybe we can do something like this similar when we meet. Maybe when we hang out, we can do A, B, and C together. You want to connect that affection and extend it a little bit towards in person. Just a little bit of prompting. So let's say you guys are talking about how you guys really feel like you're connected and you really love each other. You really care about each other. Maybe that's a conversation you guys are having. It's easier over text instead of in person because a lot of avoidants, they feel uncomfortable. I'm going to explain that in a little bit. But you might say, I really feel like we're really connected. I like talking to you. Maybe we can go to the park in a couple weeks. Maybe we can go to the movies in a couple weeks. Or you can say, I am going to A, B, and C. I'd love if you could tag along. Be a little bit more prompting of that. Now, I have some patients where I see couples and I have some calls with couples of you guys actually. And one thing that a person had mentioned that's avoidant, okay, it's not specific to that case, but they said I get really anxious and uncomfortable when we meet. And so I have to have a lot of preparation. This is very real, okay? When they mean preparation, they mean emotionally. I have to show up a certain way. I don't want to look like I don't care. I don't want to be so detached that you think I don't care about you. I don't know how to talk to you. I don't know how to make eye contact with you because maybe it's not enough or maybe I'm not enough and I don't want to hear that failure. This is usually where it comes from. And so when you add some subtle prompting, it does help them to challenge that fear because the issue with this type of anxiety is leaving it and letting it fester makes it worse. It does make it worse because it's avoidance. So putting a little bit of prompting, making the conversation more comfortable about this can really help. The reason why I call this more indifference is because you are laying it out as if it's like you're just talking about, should we have tacos or pizza tonight? It's not very emotional when you're saying it, but you still are saying it. We can talk about this when we meet, or that would be fun to do together. What do you think? Or I get that meeting each other can be really uncomfortable. I feel that. When you talk about in person as a regular conversation, a regular exchange, they actually feel less anxious about it. It's less pressuring. It's less uncomfortable, okay? It's actually very similar to how they feel about intimacy in the bedroom. So if that's an issue you have, I obviously won't be able to talk about that on YouTube, but I have no problem talking about that on a consultant call because that's a very common issue that shows up. And so please don't worry, I don't judge, okay? The next one is, in general, I would like if you guys would have some days where you're not discussing too much about the emotional side of your relationship, especially in the beginning. Later, it's fine. But sometimes just discuss the details of your day or what you're doing or what you and your friends did or what you plan on doing or your work relationships. This can help them to feel a little bit like the love part is less pressured, okay? The next one is specific instructions, okay? This is the last point. I've touched on this a couple times on this channel, but I will probably never stop because this is something that helps no matter if it's fearful or dismissive, male or female avoidant, instructions will make a difference, okay? I would like if tomorrow you text me on your lunch break. That helps me feel connected. Can you do that? They can say yes, they can say no, but the instruction is the most important part because they are able to be more clear. No, I can't do that. I get anxious. Yes, that's fine. No, I can't do that because I don't take lunch breaks. Then if that's the case, you can say that makes sense. Maybe can you call, like not maybe, but can you call me after work? Then they can say yes. Being very specific helps you to target what is a specific issue that's stopping them, or they know exactly what you want. By being specific, you are doing benefit to your relationship, and you're not saying it in an emotional way. Yes, you are an emotional person. Humans are, that's healthy. But when you translate it more strategic, logical, it helps them to understand what you're saying. And I want you to get the relationship you want. I'm not saying this to make you guys upset. I know sometimes these things can be frustrating. It can feel like hand holding, and it is to some extent. But I say it because I want to be honest and I want you to get the love that you want, okay? So I hope this video is helpful to somebody. Please like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.